Hi, this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Monday, May the 21st. This will serve as our chart lesson for today. And a couple of quick comments before I get started. I'm going to try to do this quickly today. I'm doing this a little later than I wanted, but let me make these comments real quick, and then we'll move on to what I saw today. First of all, I'd like to say that if you listen to my video Friday, I've thought about it a little bit more over the weekend, and hopefully the main thing I want to make sure is I hope I did not discourage anybody from trying to make it as a trader, because that's really that's really the key. Is it's got to be you've got to really want this, and you got to stick to it, and you got to work hard at it. That was the main point I wanted to make. And sure, there are some people that it's not the right profession from them, but that really was not my point. And if anybody took it that way, I hope that I didn't discourage you, because it takes. But this is what I'll say, and I'm gonna move on. Is that until you can consistently make money on the simulator, don't risk your real money. That's the biggest key. And if it means you've got to sit there on the simulator for months and months and months, or even years, that's the kind of dedication that it's going to take for some people. So, but just don't risk your real money. It's not worth it. I can remember back, I was so eager to trade my real money, and I'm thinking, I got to get my money in this thing, and I got to trade my real money, and I might have one or two good days in a row, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm ready to trade my money, and I go trade my money, and immediately I lose 2 days in a row. And that's what'll happen to you. That's the mental part of it. So until you can consistently make money on the simulator, and when I say consistently, I'm not talking about for a few days or a few weeks, maybe not even, I'm talking about for months. You need to be able to do that every day for somewhere between at least 3 and 6 months, if not longer. And so again, don't take what I said the wrong way, because I didn't want to discourage anybody from trying to make it as a trader. That was not my intent. I just wanted some people to look at this realistically and understand that that some people just aren't cut out to be traders. And but even if you don't know, and this is something you want to do and you really believe in, just don't give up. Just stick to the simulator and keep working at it. And but don't put your real money on the line until you've proven over time that you can do it on the simulator. And then you can think about going live. But let's go to the trades. Here's today's trade. It was an uptrend all day pretty much. The uptrend started from the overnight. We really were in a trading range by the time the market opened. These were the first two real swings, and you could ask why these weren't probably the swings, but these were all equal level. So this was the very last one that made the lowest swing, so that's the one I'm going to work off of. And that didn't happen until almost 9 o'clock. So even if you'd have drawn the original one, which I've had this one drawn in the beginning, and that is a trend right there. We broke it, we corrected, and then we started up for a new one. So, but this is a major trend line right here that we got from the first two swings of the day, the first two lowest swings. That's this swing and this swing. And so you draw that and you drag it up, and then you make a copy of it like so, and you drag it up here, and usually you drag it to the high of the next swing, or you might even come back to the previous swings like this. But you can notice it didn't really match. So the key is to draw it to the next next high swing, and that's way up here. And you notice that prices were still headed that way. So that led me to believe that until we touch this line, we're not going to have a significant sell-off. So that's why I'm still looking for longs up through here. And then this is a trading range, so the next trend didn't start until these two low swings. And this is just a repeat. This little pattern right here is just a smaller repeat of this pattern. And you notice how I drew that trend line. I drew it the same way here off those two low swings. And then, but instead of cloning this one and taking it up, which you could have, you still wouldn't have got anything. But once you start to see matching swings across the top, look at there, then you kind of got this little wedge shape. But we eventually broke above that, retested it, and went higher. And So anyway, that's how I got those trend lines. And we actually had a trend line right here too, and we had the break. Uh, but I believe this was the main trend line for the day right here, and this was the main minor trend line in the afternoon. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time talking here. My throat is bothering me too for some reason. But let's talk about the trades real quick. One other comment I want to make before I move on is I'm considering going to doing the reviews, the chart lesson just on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and foregoing Mondays and Fridays, because Mondays are my busy days, and by the time I get around to doing this, it's so late on Mondays. And then Fridays, a lot of people don't watch them till Saturday anyway, so I may just start doing them on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and maybe occasionally on Saturday when I've got time to do one, at least over the summer. When it's going to be quieter, my kids are out of school, and I'm going to be spending more time with them. But I haven't made up my mind yet, and I may go to doing one Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday officially, and then if I get time on Monday or Friday, I may do one anyway. So, but I haven't made up my mind on that. Just something I'm thinking about. But I'll let you guys know what I decide to do. But let's talk about the trades. The first entry after the open was right here. We had this strong support. We kept pulling back, and we had this nice reversal bar. Your long, here's your signal bar. Your order's one tick above that. Easy trade. Prices pulled back rather quickly. You could have got a couple of points out of that runner maybe, but not more. But if you didn't tighten your stop as we went up, then you got stopped out at break even on your runners. But you had another chance to enter right here. This time we broke below the entry. Here's your signal bar, this little bitty doji right down here at the very bottom, one tick above it. So your entry is right here, and prices quickly took off and never looked back. So any runners right here were easily safe, and you could have made anywhere from 94 to here's 10 points. So almost 20 points today on those runners, and that's great. That's what we want to see, and that's what we hope to happen, is get these 20-point days off a single runner. 20 points off one contract's pretty nice day in my book. And so this was a nice easy setup, standard rules, even if there was no trend line really yet. So but that did give us our trend line right there. But that's a great setup, a failed break lower, and especially after a strong move down. So a lot of shorts got trapped in here, and those guys got taken to the cleaners. And if they didn't exit pretty quickly, they really got taken to the cleaners. So there's another entry right here, because we could have got our trend line off these first three little bars. Let me make it bigger so it's easier to see. And you see that trend line coming off those first three bars. Well, there's the first pullback that actually touched that. So, and we broke lower and then turned higher and closed. So you could have had your long, your long order right here, and it was really too risky to put it above this bar once it closed, because then you're too close to these highs here, and I really should have had that right there. And so there's not enough room to scalp out before getting here if you entered above this bar. So you had to enter above that one. It was okay because it's a failed second entry short, and there's this short trap when prices broke below right here and hit this trend line and reversed. So as soon as it went lower, I put my order right here hoping that, hey, if it reverses, I'll get stopped in. If it doesn't, then you change your order, you reevaluate the price action. But that's how you get ahead of it. Always be thinking ahead of where you put your order in case this reversed and went up. And that's exactly what happened when it came off that trend line. So hopefully you found that trend line off those first three bars there. This was the next time we pulled back. This is also a breakout pullback, but it's a two-legged pullback to the trend line, the EMA. It's a breakout pullback long off this little double top right here. So lots of reasons to go long above this signal bar right here. And again, it was off to the races, and any runners were easily safe here. And this was another entry point, was around 02. So that's another 10-point move right there. And at the very least, you should have got 4 or 5 points out of this, because it just kept going and going and going. If you notice, I circled this one in green, because this is people are always asking me, where do you get tricked, where do you get trapped, can you show us a losing trade? Well, I got tricked right here, and I'll show you this trade. This is a nice two-legged pullback. It's the first break of this trend line. There's strong support right here. I'll tell you here, I actually entered down here blindly, and I scalped out, and then when it pulled back right here and went higher again, I went long right here, thinking that it was going to go up and test these highs. And so I actually got trapped right here, but I bet some of you probably got trapped above this bar, so it's the same thing. I kind of circled the whole thing. But that's why I buy blindly down here a lot of times, because I know you're going to get the bounce, and it was easy to scalp out. There's enough room to scalp out if you bought down here, but if you waited and went long above either of these two bars, then you got trapped. And I actually got trapped on this trap where we turned and broke lower and then went high and closed on this high. That was a second entry long, and so I went long right there. So I got long at the very high. So I got trapped right there. And what did I do? When prices broke lower right here, when we had that big bearish bar right there, my thoughts were, hey, if prices break below that bar, that's not a good sign. But really, I figured prices would probably come down here and touch this and then bounce again. So I put my stop 2 ticks down here. And when it bounced again right here, I thought I was going to get out and it was going to go on higher. But when it came back down again, by that time I'm thinking I'm in the wrong place. I'm really going to get burned here. We're making lower highs. Look how we're making a lower high each time. So I exited somewhere in here with a point or so loss. So that's how that's how I handle that. And I probably should have just went ahead and exited right here, because a break below that bar is not a good sign. And so I should have probably exited right below that bar. But I realize, most of the time prices are going to come back there and give you another chance. And look, it got 1, 2, 3 chances. But I think I exited somewhere here. When we broke lower and came higher here, somewhere I exited right in here when this made a lower high. I think when this made a doji, I think I just went ahead and put an order in there and got out, or hit the exit button and got out. So I lost a point on this. Maybe, I think I actually lost 5 ticks. I can't remember exactly. So there's a good example of how you can get tricked. And even I got tricked right there, because look at that nice two-legged move right there, and then prices broke higher, and then we broke lower here and had a short trap and then went higher again. Those don't fail very often, especially since this was the first break of this trend line. I was looking for prices to come back up and make a new high, and that's what happened here. But they just weren't ready to go higher yet, because they were trying to establish a trend, and we finally established it right here. But I re-entered right here, and you definitely should have re-entered right here on this move right here. And this is a second entry. There's one leg up, a pull back, and we made a higher low and then went higher. So there's a nice entry right there. And there we are. We're headed off to make the new high. And so then a lot of people are probably thinking short. But if you drew this trend line down here, you're thinking, hey, we haven't got anywhere near this up here. But of course, like I said, once you started to get these highs across here, you should have at least drawn this line just to see, and you can see when prices played off of it again. And then, but this was the trend line we're watching. We're not interested, even though there's some good shorts up here, we're not interested in those because the trend is up and they're too risky. So we're just waiting on prices to come back and see if we test this trend line again. And there we did it right there. You could have gone long right here, but the smarter move was to wait for a second entry. So look, prices pulled back again right here, tested it and then went higher. So there's your entry right there, an easy scalp. And prices, guess where they bounced? Right off of this little minor line I had across here. And then we pulled back again. There was no entry here because we didn't get back to the trend line, so it was risky. Look at all those overlapping bars. It was really risky. And I really didn't mark anything after that point because it's getting too late in the day. So I didn't mark anything there, but there were plenty of trades before we got to that point. And this was the only real tricky trade right here, and it tricked me. And a lot of times what you have to do, let me show you this little trick. You draw your you draw your trend line down, and I really thought that was it, and and that probably is it, but what I should have been paying attention to was the first break of that trend line. Notice that we had a break right there, but nothing closed above it. So far nothing is closed above this little minor trend line. That's the first break. So you got to be thinking, hey, we got to have a retest, and there's the retest. And so I really shouldn't have been thinking long until over here. But after all this, I just got, this is what happens to you, and this is what really happens if you're inexperienced. You get to seeing all this, and you get to thinking, we're just going to keep going higher. We're going to keep going higher. And so it pays to draw even these short-term trend lines, because you can see the rule worked right there. There's your short-term trend line. Off those first 3 bars, prices didn't really close or break that trend line till here. And so that should have been my clue not to be going long when this pulled back right here. I should have waited for the retest of the low. And if you'd went long above any of these others, as long as you kept your stop down here a couple of ticks below this, even if you went long right here, 2 ticks would have done it. Yeah, that's why a lot of times I'll keep my stop at least 2 ticks below my signal bar, because a lot of times it'll break back 1 tick just to run the stops, and then it takes off. So but anyway, hopefully that makes sense. This was your trend line and should have been waiting on a break, and you can do that on all these short-term trend lines. And a lot of times it'll be the closing, but look right here, this was a good sign. Even though some of these might have worked for a long, if you were watching this trend line, you really didn't have a break until right here, and then look, prices came back and tested it and then went higher. So even on your short-term little pullbacks like that, you can draw your trend line and still follow the rules, and it'll help keep you on the right side of the market. So hopefully that makes sense to people. But I'm going to wrap it up. This is almost 20 minutes again. But this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. Hope you had a good trading day, and I'll see you tomorrow.